Look, we depend on the summer people here for our very lives.
You are not going to have a summer unless you deal with this problem.
We're not only going to have to close the beach, we're going to have to hire somebody to kill the shark. I mean, we're going to have to tell the Coast Guard.
Mr. Vaughn, you have to contact the shark
research panel. We're going to have to put extra deputies on because
you have to ring the entire harbor.
I don't think one of you are familiar with our problems.
I think that I am familiar with the fact that you are going to ignore this particular problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass. Now, wait a second.
Chief.
There are two ways to deal with this problem.
Hey,
You're
Chief.
either going to kill this animal or you're going to cut off its food supply.
Larry, we have to close the beaches. Brody, sick vandalism. That is a deliberate mutilation of a public service message. Now, I want those little paint-happy bastards caught and hung up by their Buster Browns.
That's it. Goodbye. I'm not going to waste my time arguing with a man who's lining up to be a hot lunch. I'm going to see you later.
Oh, no, please don't do this.
He's not. Mr. Vaughn, what we are dealing with here is a perfect engine, an eating machine. It's really a miracle of evolution. All this machine does is swim and eat and make little sharks. And that's all. Now, why don't you take a long, close look at this sign? Those proportions are correct.
Love to prove that, wouldn't you? Get your name into the National Geographic.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
I'm Robert.
I'm Frank.
I'm Adam.
And we're going to be covering on this particular episode something that's been in the works for 50 years, apparently. It's the 50th anniversary of Jaws from 1975.
It's been in the works.
Yeah, it's been in the works. We had to wait all this time till it came out. The movie's very historical, very made a staple in cinema. So, Rob was thinking, hey, let's get together and talk about it and give it its just credit and due. We've done it for a previous podcast, but that's no longer out there from my understanding. But, this will be out here for you guys now to listen to. So you had some ideas and thoughts of how to discuss this. So I'm going to put this in your hands.
Sure, not a problem. So, by the way, we have the old group back from Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, which is great having everybody here. But I wanted to discuss this movie, man. I mean, this movie, I didn't realize that this was the 50th anniversary of this movie. When I saw the advertisement out there, I thought, wow, has it really been that long, right? And when you think about it, especially for people like myself, I'm like, I can't believe I went to see this at the movies when it first came out, so that's what makes it really kind of like, makes me think I'm really old. But no, it's amazing how this movie has really withstood the test of time, and what this movie means to people out there, to cinema, to pop culture, to a lot of people out there. I don't know what you guys think about it, but like when I first saw the movie, it terrified the crap out of me. Right? I was 8 years old. So yes, I'm 58. So I was 8 years old. My dad took me to the theater. It was actually in the Bronx. There was a theater called the Capri. This was out in Tremont Avenue. Yeah. And no longer there. Hasn't been there for I think over 30 years or something. But my dad took me there. We saw it. It was in mono, of course, because back then that's how the movie was released, I believe. And let me tell you, it was such a visceral experience for me that I was terrified, but at the same time fascinated by this movie. My dad told me years later, he goes, "Oh, when I took you, first of all, I felt guilty for taking you to this movie." And then he goes, he goes, and man, there were scenes there that, let me tell you, people were screaming all over the place in the theater. I almost screamed all over the place, and everything. It was crazy. I couldn't even take a shower because I thought the damn shark was going to come out of the damn bathtub. That's how much of an impact this movie made on me. What what I'll ask you guys what this movie means to you guys.
I also saw it in the theater. The big thing that I remember for us was the long ass line that you had to wait on just to get into the movie. And that was like the first time that ever really happened. And it was like even news reports and things like that covering the lines going around the block. But yeah, we went, and my mom, of course, taking me to movies that I shouldn't go to. I'm about 6 years old. So she turned around and she's like, "Hey, this really good movie is coming out and I want to go see it. And I have to take my kids because they should see it too. Why shouldn't we all be scarred?" And that's what happened. I mean, literally, you're sitting there in that movie, and from those first two notes of you're like, damn it, what the hell did I get myself into? And just seeing it and enjoying the crap out of it. And literally, like, I just watched it the other day, in preparation for this. I watched the special edition on Peacock that's Jaws 50, that basically just has like this little blurb from Spielberg at the beginning. It's just such a good movie, and you're right, it does withstand the test of time. You can never get tired of watching that movie. If you were stuck on a desert island and that was the only movie you had to watch, granted, you'd never go into water, but you could sit there and watch that movie.
You're like, I'm in a desert island. I could swim out to the other island, but the damn movie, that's not going to happen.
It's not happening, no.
Adam, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I saw it a lot on TV and when we rented it and, but I would say over the last 10, 15 years, I've managed to catch like almost any anniversary re-release that they've done. And it's just crazy how like every single time I would go catch like one of these anniversary re-releases, it's always a packed theater. It's people of different age groups. It's like kids and adults and everyone in between. And it's just crazy how just like something as simple as a shark, water, beach can still draw people to the theater, and there's like no special effects or anything like that in this movie. Like everything is practical, everything is, in camera. So it's crazy how even after 50 years, like people are still talking about it. I mean, kind of like what Frank was saying, this was considered like the first big blockbuster movie, and it actually like changed the way the movie industry actually releases movies, like because it came out in the summer and I think they blocked out like 400 plus theaters or something like that. That became like their template going forward. So Jaws literally influenced the way movies are released today. So it's crazy from just beyond the movie itself. And yeah, I mean, it's just anytime you think about a shark at the beach, the only thing people are going to think is Jaws. I don't think of any other movie when I'm at the beach and you hear something about a shark. And I think it's going to do that for the next 50 years. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you, Mark?
Well, the funniest is that my family did go. I was going there, but I was 3 years old at the time when it came out. So I had no memory of it. The only memory I have of the movie and seeing it was on TV through when they released it on TV. Which was like probably 77, 78. By that time I was 5, and the only memory of me in a blockbuster movie film at that point was in like 77 for Star Wars when that came out. But I saw this over and over, and I always equate it to that is like what Adam was saying. This is the blockbuster film and what started it for the summer films at that point. And it is the movie you go to when you think of a water-based film first. Nobody's going to think of a movie like Blood Beach or any of the other shark movies that came and followed. Maybe Piranha, but
Sharknado,
very popular.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, this movie really pioneered the way of blockbuster summer films and has been used as a benchmark for a lot of these blockbuster summer films. that go forward now. Everything is compared, and anytime they do a comparison on what it made, because the budget for this particular movie originally was, I think, 7 million, but
Didn't it balloon to like
Went a
10
little
million or
over.
something?
uh,
Something like that.
yeah, and it outperformed a lot of other. But everybody uses this as the benchmark of how it's like popularity, what attracted everybody back in the day when you went to the movies, and the lines that followed around the theater. Literally, that's what they usually use it as like something to look at and reference to. How does the new film that just came out equal up to this?
I mean, it
particular
coined
film?
the
Yeah.
actual phrase blockbuster. And it was the first one to do that. It was the first one to really make people just stand, because you didn't see that before. Standing online, it was going around the block, maybe sometimes twice around the block. The marketing strategies and that they did for this movie, just like from the trailer to all that, really got people interested in this whole thing. This is based off of the novel. I forgot who the author is. Anybody?
Peter Benchley.
Peter Benchley.
Peter
Yeah. So
Benchley.
it's based off of his book, and it just made, of course, that novel rise to the top again. I think it was number 2 when it first got released, but then this movie, of course, made it rise again. It just defined, like we said, it defined the movie going habits and how Hollywood did business from that point on. How is it going to market movies from that point on? How is it going to be released from that point on? If it could create this kind of frenzy with movie going people, can they do it again and again and again? And as we've seen many movies do that afterwards. So things like Star Wars, things like Jurassic Park. There's just countless of movies out there that we can actually say that people were standing in line for.
We were standing in line.
We were standing in line for a lot of those. Nowadays, you don't have to do that. Now you just, reserve your seat on an app, and that,
right.
I think, I'm going to be very honest with you. I think that experience of standing in line was also fantastic because it was part of the movie going experience. It was part of, hey, I'm about to see something really cool, but at the same time, you are sharing this communal thing with everybody in line, and you're talking about, like, especially Star Wars, right? So Star Wars, not the first one, but I would say after that, the people you're standing in line with, all of you have a love for this thing. All of you have, you're looking forward to it. You talk about it. Shit, people make friends, just because they were in line and they just have something, in common with each other. That's no longer there. Now everything is through an app, which is bad and a great thing at the same time, because sometimes you don't want to stand in line. Sometimes, if you got to stand in line in the rain, that sucks. But or in the snow, and not only that, but it's like first come first serve seats also sucks.
Yeah, you stuck with the
nosebleeds
first.
Yeah,
well, not nosebleeds, but
oh my god, that front row, yeah,
front row.
So the one thing I would say is, I mean, we have to give credit to the person who made this happen, which of course was Steven Spielberg. Now, Steven Spielberg came off of what? The movie Duel.
Yeah, that truck movie.
And he always felt that this was kind of like a part 2 to Duel, because Duel was just this truck that was relentless, coming after this one salesperson in a car, and then like the shark in Jaws is basically the same thing. It's a relentless thing that's coming after these guys. But he was 27 at the time.
Right.
Didn't have any pull in Hollywood at all. The fact that this shark never worked.
Yeah.
The fact that it went over budget. The fact that he decided to make it as authentic as possible by doing it actually in the ocean, which you just don't do nowadays. He went to Martha's Vineyard. I don't know if you guys realize, but only 8 actors from Hollywood were in this movie. everybody else that was acting in this movie was from Martha's Vineyard.
Yep.
And it was the only,
residents.
yeah, they were residents, and they were that was the only acting job they ever did. So, as a matter of fact, from what I heard, like the little kid that had, like the two kids that had the shark fin, in the water that they were doing the prank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of them is the sheriff nowadays.
Wow.
And the Kittner kid owns a restaurant, and he had a reunion with the mother in his restaurant too recently.
Yeah, and I think his brother died years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he still holds he has a shop with just like, if you go everywhere, Martha's Vineyard, especially this year, there's just Jaws marketing stuff everywhere right now.
Well, with the 50th anniversary, they're having a gala there. It's a get together. It's invite only for certain people. I think it's $250 a head, but there's wine that's out there. They have like a dedicated bottle of wine they're selling that you get for the $250. Wine tasting, a limited edition glass for the 50th anniversary. They have beer that's based upon the area from the movie, what it was called. There's like a whole thing going on, and they're showing the museum stuff, like from Greg Nicotero, I believe, that they created wax figures or these figures of Quentin and the sheriff and everything.
That's pretty cool. So they're basically selling shark blood and shark piss. Okay. The one thing I would say also, this actually made Steven Spielberg like a household name. Right. He became the it director in Hollywood, and gave him final cut from that point on for every movie he has ever made. So that's
Close Encounters,
everything. Like, that's how much pull he had. Now, don't get me wrong, he feared that was going to be his last movie.
Right.
Yeah.
He in a documentary, he something I didn't know about, he actually had PTSD for this movie for years after that.
Yep.
Like, he would wake up in sweats and stuff. Like, he couldn't really let this go. And I didn't know this, but like, the Jaws ride in Orlando or in California,
Universal Studios.
Yeah, it had the original Orca ship there. And he would sneak into the Orca ship and lay down in the little bench where like the three guys were comparing scars. He would lay down there and sometimes even cry. Like, that's how much this movie affected him. And he said he did that for years. But again, it just made him, it made him the household name. It made him the director that he is today. And from that point on, man, I mean, he was just what I would call shitting out gold. But again, I think I think the success of this movie, what made it the success, was the fact that the shark did not work.
That's a part of it.
That's a big part of it, is the fact that because I think if it worked all the time, it would not have had the impact that the movie had.
It was the illusion of the shark being there with not being there.
Right.
And in the music, and the music is literally the hero of the film. So that's all on John Williams and giving us that vibe and feel through music.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but if we did see Bruce the Shark on screen all the time, it would be like, after the first 2 times, you're going to be, not caring about it too much.
Yeah.
It was the excitement, the exhilaration of it attacking somebody, and you don't see it at this point, and we do see it at the very end, but it's the anticipation that really gets you. It's that rush.
I think he doesn't come into like an hour into the film.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how they kept audiences waiting with just like POV shots, like you said, the music, the editing. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I mean, talk about working around, disasters. So I don't know if you guys ever caught this, but they actually made a play. I went to go see it like 2 years ago called The Shark is Broken.
Yeah.
And
I heard about that. Yeah.
Oh my! When I tell you, it was great. It was basically, the whole play is around the three lead actors that were supposed to be from Jaws, so like Brody, Quint, and Hooper, and basically all of their banter interactions while they're waiting for the crew to fix the shark, and it all takes place on the boat. And what's even crazy, well, first off, all three actors did amazing. Like you really felt like you were watching like the real life actors. But
Right.
what made it even more special is that Robert Shaw's son, Ian Shaw, played Robert Shaw.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And when I tell you, it felt like Robert Shaw was there. It was insane. Like the his mannerisms, the voice, it was crazy. And it was almost like you're getting like a live behind the scenes of like the drama, and then all the stuff that wound up kind of influencing their interactions in the movie, because there was like real life tension and all that stuff.
Right.
It was just crazy. So to think that the shark being broken was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to this movie, like inside and out, it's kind of like mind boggling.
Oh yeah, I think it was a blessing for him. Whether he, even though it kind of scarred him for life, and we could talk about the real star of this movie was John Williams' theme, which was basically the substitute for the shark not being there. Because Steven Spielberg has this discussed so many times. I had scenes where I was going to have the shark, but the shark didn't work, so I decided to do this or this. Right. So a good example of that is like the barrels, when they shoot the barrels into the shark, and all you see is just the barrels. That was because it's like, well, we can't get the shark to work, so let's just make believe that the barrels are the shark. And the music itself, which, I think we all know the story already, where, Steven Spielberg heard these two notes and he thought that, John Williams was kidding. But it turned out that music, even till this day, and, working in audio and video, especially in a hi-fi store, when I did demos, a lot of people do demos of music and stuff like that. I used to do demos of Jaws. And the reason I did that was because I used to tell people, if you're buying a television that's fucking 83 inches big, why the hell are you buying a shitty soundbar? I used to introduce them to that, but I used to put the music, and I didn't even tell them what the music was. And they recognized it. 45 years later, they recognize this music. Everybody, look, kids know this music, and they never even seen the damn movie. But you know what they call it? They call it the shark song or the shark music. So
and there's Friday the 13th.
Nah, I think this is like 100 times more popular than Friday the 13th. Come on.
Yeah,
it depends on where you go.
This is nowhere near Friday the 13th.
This is more universally the biggest movie, and
from this is like
recognizable.
Yeah, you could argue
everyone.
You could argue Jaws, Star Wars.
Yeah.
What else? Maybe
Close Encounters.
That Gone
Raiders
with
of
the
the Lost
Wind, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those are popular themes that you'll like. I think horror themes. It depends. Maybe Halloween.
But I mean, for simplicity, the whole everybody recognizes that.
If you're a horror fan, yes.
Yeah.
If you're a horror fan, yes. But what I'm talking about is this here for a supposedly what is it? I don't know if this was considered high budget back then in movies.
No, this was considered an independent film.
This was independent. So
it was low budget.
So it's low budget, but still for low budget film to have this type of for music to have this type of impact, and even years later, it's amazing. And that's why I would say that Williams knew how to make the music its own character, and the influence it had on not only this movie but other movies, and how. This theme song comes up so many times in parodies and just stupid things. It came out in the movie Airplane.
Right.
I think it came out in the movie. It came out in a few movies. I remember that just as a parody or something like that, because it was just so well made.
Yeah, Clerks made a joke about it. Salsa shark. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. But, besides that being the character, we could talk about how this movie impacted, like you said, Mark, Martha's Vineyard and it's people there, because these guys were only supposed to be there
like
a month.
and a half, maybe, but they were there for months.
They were there for like 3-4 months, and I mean it just upended the entire town.
Yeah, it did. They literally were living there. And to add on to the John Williams and the music, just a really short one. Do you ever really watch the movie without the music? Because on certain DVDs and Blu-rays, they have it where you can watch the movie without any of the compositions that were there for the film to see how boring it is. It's a really boring film.
I don't doubt it, man. Let me tell you, because look, when you look at the film and you look at the shark, you look at that shark and you go, "That's a fake ass shark," right? They had certain scenes, I think, that the shark looked, really nice and really real, and then there's just other scenes and you're like, rubber shark,
Yeah.
But it still works, man. It still works. The one thing I would say is that the legacy that this left behind on pop culture was fear of swimming, for a while, and also it did bad things and good things for sharks.
Right.
So people all of a sudden went into like the hunting of shark, craze,
Yes.
which was honestly bringing down the population so much that it's crazy. But it also brought awareness to this. So, and that's why now they have a lot of conservation groups for sharks, and you're starting to see a comeback of a lot of the species for sharks because of that. There's still countries out there that are, fishing them just for shark fin soup and stuff like that, which they believe.
Sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, mostly because of what is it? It's a cultural thing where they think that shark fin soup, is a cure for whatever it is. Huh?
Virility.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Please.
things like that. But it's the fact that people in those type of countries, that culture and that, I guess, those beliefs are so strong that they don't realize you guys are decimating an entire species just because of something that hasn't been proven true. You could tell them all the science in the world and they're just going to be like, yeah, we don't care. But it did bring a lot of I think it brought a lot of what I would say a lot of eyes on sharks and more education to it. And I think also we could thank this movie for bringing us Shark Week on Discovery Channel.
I was going to say that. There's also something that came about with this. They started examining more and more with great white, and they realized they couldn't keep it in captivity. There is a documentary, listeners, on YouTube that I watched. It's about 40 minutes long, and it talks about how they were trying to keep one in captivity, and they can't. Literally, because these creatures have to travel thousands of miles. They're hunters. They can't be swimming in a circle all the time. They wouldn't eat and things of that
I think
nature.
the longest one lasted was like a week, and then it died off or something like that.
Yeah, they've had about 4 or 5 cases of it over the years.
Crazy enough, they have a whale shark in a museum, I think out in Dubai or something like that. I'm not even sure. In a gigantic, like super gigantic aquarium, and that survives fine. But for some reason, the great white just cannot be captured in captivity, which is to kind of put it in perspective. I think the great white is like the perfect biological species there is out there. I mean, this thing has just survived millions of years. The design of what a shark is, and then for it to still be around practically unchanged just means that, hey, it is as perfect as you could possibly probably take a species to. But you were saying something, Mark, about copycats, and you're right. And I think Frank also mentioned it. there were a lot of imitators out there. You had orca, which is really a killer whale.
Yes.
You had piranhas, which is little fish, from the Amazon. But then you had like the Meg, Deep Blue Sea, Sharknado. There's another one of these two people that are like stranded, I think.
Oh, Finding Nemo. Yeah.
Well, listen, in Finding Nemo, the shark was named Bruce.
Bruce, yeah.
So, but there's been a lot of copycats out there, and for some reason, no matter what shark movie is out there, no matter what special effects are being done, no matter what it is, it still can't hold a candle to. The people are still comparing it to that. People are gonna be like, "Oh, it's a shark movie. Is it as good as Jaws?" Oh, I don't think so. Oh, well, then I'm not gonna go see it. 50-year-old movie. Now, so. They tried to reach that same highlight, but they couldn't. And, I think the thing that makes Jaws great is the fact that, it's his character building. It's the fact that, again, the shark is barely there. It's just the, what I would call the
anticipation.
The anticipation and just kind of like the fact that your mind is the one that's putting the shark there. And that was I think that was perfect about it. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. Sorry. I agree. I mean, you yourself, even Adam had said, the shark doesn't show up until about an hour into the movie. So your mind is basically what did it. A really effective scene where you really barely see anything is where the two guys go out to try to catch the shark by themselves with the roast.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what do you see? You don't really see anything during that thing, except the piece of wood when it turns around. Right.
Well, the pier breaks, and then it drags
and then it turns
and then
around,
it comes
and
back.
it starts coming towards them.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be the tide. So
right. No, it's amazing how you could use other props to suggest the shark. And let me tell you, that was a terrifying scene because you're going, oh my God, these two people are going to die.
This guy's going to die. Yeah.
Or even in the very beginning, the first initial scene that we do see with the woman swimming, and we do not see the shark at all. We don't even see where it is from the poster where you see Bruce's snout coming up to go get her as she's swimming above. We don't even see that on film. Literally, we just see her getting like that fake. Well, they do this in Friends. They did this with Ross, where he does it in front of the window, where it's just the upper body and him shaking and acting like the woman where she was in the water. All she is doing is being moved around left and right, smacking. I think it goes to one of those pier markers too.
Yeah, right.
And she's on that. That's something that moves as well. It was just, it's the suspense and thrill of it, of you not seeing it, and the anticipation of, are we going to see it this time?
Oh my God. And the horrific scream that she makes.
Part of that is because she actually was being hurt.
Yeah. And part of the documentary, they talk about her. Sadly enough, she passed away recently within the past year. But yeah, she was like, they had something to do that to make her. It was a harness. And
they had a harness from like side to side. That's what they wanted, a jerking motion from side to side.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy how that, that got done. He was, and again, I give it to Steven Spielberg. He's like, well, I can't show the shark. I got to find a creative way to quote,
have it there and not be there.
Quote unquote, show the shark. Right. Exactly. So do you guys think we will ever see another film like Jaws?
The only thing we had close to it, what was more innovative for its time, and it was another Spielberg movie, was Jurassic Park. That became the biggest hit because of innovation and technology. That is just as big as Jaws is at this point, I think.
Yeah, but I will argue that the dinosaurs and the digital effects were driving that movie, while in this case, the lack of shark and the lack of having an actual animatronic working was creating the same, I guess, the same.
The lack of the main element
Yeah.
of the film is not there.
And I don't think you will ever see that in film ever again. I mean, if you do, it's a low budget film that people will forget about.
Or
Right.
maybe something comparable, but that would be Hitchcock's Psycho, because you never really saw Mother at any point, at given point in the movie.
Well, Steven Spielberg, there was a lot of Hitchcock influence in this movie because of that too. So, but yeah, I just don't see that happening. And you, Adam, as a filmmaker, what I would call lessons for future filmmakers and stuff like that. What would you tell them when it comes to their craft and what they could learn from this movie?
I mean, everything was like working against them in this film and going over budget, things not working, and which is like the realistic. I mean, I never did it to that extent, but there's been plenty of times where the day of something is just like maybe an actor doesn't show up, or a location that I thought I had now became unavailable, and no amount of preparation can prepare you for the ambiguity of everything. So I think, like, I guess one big lesson to take away, it's like take a weakness and find a way to make it the strength. Like you said, Rob, before, like it's like, hey, we can't show the shark, but what can we show that affects the shark? And then the yellow barrels, when that was coming about, anyone who is getting killed or hurt, show it above water. So you're seeing like the aftermath, and you're not seeing what's happening underneath. And what Frank was saying, it leaves it up to your imagination. So it's just like that creativity of, sometimes you don't have to show everything, I mean, again, the shark didn't show up to like almost an hour into the movie. So, that bought him all that time, so that the few shots, I think in total, it was like 4 minutes of screen time that he had, the shark itself. So it's crazy how a movie about a shark only showed up in like less than 5 minutes on the actual screen. So so it's not, and then, on top of that too, you got to care for the characters. If you don't care for the characters, then you're not going to care if they die. It holds more weight if, you build up that connection, so that if they're in danger, you're like, well, I don't want them to die. So now I'm in this to see if who's going to win this fight,
Right.
I don't know. It's every little bit helps. It doesn't just fall on one thing, but one thing can change the course of everything. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's and don't film movies in the water. That was my other thing. don't
Or at least don't film movies in the ocean. Actually, yeah, that's exactly it.
Not if you don't have to.
Yeah. I just think like the like you were saying, Adam, for filmmakers out there, and especially new filmmakers out there, Jaws is definitely a lesson in filmmaking.
For sure.
Everything from the power of suggestion to character first, ideas, the creativity from limitations, like you were saying, those are all things that I think that directors and all kinds of filmmakers should definitely learn. Sometimes I think now the movie studios are so involved in making those decisions that it really stifles, I think, the creative part so much. And I kind of wish that, in some ways, I understand why they do it. I mean, in the end, that's why they call it show business, because it is a business. But I think these type of movies are just not out there anymore. And it's a shame, because, and it's a shame, and I say this movie is a testament to what it is, because after 50 years, you can still watch it and go, holy crap, what a great movie, right? If the shark looked just slightly more real, let's just say, you could say that movie was done today. It's just plain and simple, but it's just absolutely incredible. I think,
I mean,
and how it's going
to the big shark, it's still great because it's coming out of the real water. It's next to a real boat. So you suspend your belief You know,
Right.
when but by the time you see the shark, you've already been watching this movie for an hour. So you're not thinking, okay, here comes the fake shark. You're like, okay, I've already seen this shark kill how many people, shut down a whole town, and now it's down to these three guys on a boat. And when it finally comes out of the water, you're not thinking fake shark. You're waiting for when that moment happens.
Correct.
It's funny because I've been to the Universal Studios a few times, and they still have the Jaws, mannequin thing hanging upside down as if they caught him. And that thing is massive. That thing is massive. And even though obviously it's a fake shark, but when you're looking at it, you're like, Jesus Christ, like this is terrifying. Like if this was coming at you, fake or not fake, it's terrifying.
I've always wanted to go cage diving, and I even looked into it because one thing I always want to do is at least I hope to do one day is travel to Australia, and they do have those cage diving expeditions to go see great whites. I found out how much it is, and it's damn expensive, but the fact that you're in a cage and on the other side of the cage is this eating machine that you're taking selfies with. It's a crazy experience. I imagine.
Did you see the one where somebody got in one of those cages and the shark managed to get into the cage?
I've seen one of those. Is that. Imagine you coming back from your trip and going, so let me tell you about my experience. It's why I walk with a wobble every day.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. How that is. But if the one thing I was thinking about, and of course this movie, how it's going to inspire people for the next 50 years. I'm sure. I mean, listen, this movie is admired. I saw a documentary where you had Guillermo del Toro. You had James Cameron, you had J.J. Abrams, big time directors, and how they praise this movie, and just the way they talk about it. It's like they're fans themselves, and how it inspired also them. How that inspiration also was a part of how they did their films is absolutely amazing. And so I figured, all right, in the next 50 years, what is this going to mean for people out there? And I really, and funny enough, if in the next 50 years, there is not another shark movie that can actually match this, Steven Spielberg really ruined it for everybody then.
Well, if you think about it, he's like the first one to do it, but he did it right. That's the thing. Sometimes it's about doing it first, but then how well did you do it that no one can really improve? Because, I mean, listen, like you said, there's a bunch of, I've seen some pretty good shark-related horror movies. I want to say one of the most recent ones I've seen was, what are they called? Dangerous Animals. I think they came out like a month or two ago.
Okay.
And it's based in Australia, but it's more of a horror movie where the killer feeds his victims to the shark.
Right.
So the shark is not the focus, but again, when you're in there, or at least when I was going there, I'm like, oh, let's see how this matches up to Jaws. Like that's the first thing you do. Like that's your benchmark.
Yeah, that's your benchmark.
And I don't know. I still can't think of any movie that's like even halfway near that mark. And listen, it's because of the simplicity. The simplicity of Jaws is what makes it great because it makes it believable. That's the thing. I think they. I mean, listen, you know what? Hollywood is probably never gonna build like a real animatronic shark. So they're gonna go full CG VFX. And I get it. They're gonna save money. So that's never gonna look as real. It could look photo real, but as far as like the way it moves and it's just hard. It's hard to recreate that. So I think unless someone approached it the same way that Steven Spielberg did it, but did it with newer cameras, maybe like a more modern take on it, but still kept everything in camera and practical. I don't think they're going to be able to make something that hits the same way.
No,
and I don't think it's just that. I think is all the things that went wrong with this movie is what
Right.
allowed this movie to somehow deviate from the plan to try to still get it out there, and made Steven Spielberg, I think, just say, shoot, this didn't work, but I got to do something because I am so over budget. I got, I am disrupting everybody's lives here. He felt absolutely responsible for every person that was on that set. So I think all his decisions, because things weren't working out, because he made a mistake of working out in the real ocean, which is something he didn't anticipate, all the problems that could have happened, especially with the shark, because the shark was actually made to be in regular water, not in a tank, not salt water. And the salt water was actually, causing a lot of problems. And he didn't want to do it in a tank because he said it would look fake. It just didn't, and it's that authenticity that makes this movie phenomenal. But I thought about it and I was like, well, what if Jaws was being done for the first time today? Would it be as effective? So, like things like, it will probably be like digital sharks and visual effects all over the place. Certainly for that.
Probably Hans Zimmer would do the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Well, just think
Very true.
about that first time that you actually do see the shark, like where Brody is throwing the chum into the water,
Right.
and he's not even paying attention. He's freaking mad that he has to do it. Like, and you can all relate to that. Like, you look, oh, you're just doing like this normal job and everything, and all of a sudden, this gigantic head comes from an ocean, and you're like, holy shit. And that's his reaction too. He's like, "Oh, guys, we're gonna need a bigger boat."
Yeah, no, it's stuff where I think that, I think you're right. It's those little moments where, oh, okay, I can only show the shark for like 3 seconds right now.
Right.
And of course, I think Hollywood would be tempted to show more of the shark nowadays. I think
They
also,
actually tried that recently. In 2016, there's a movie from Blake Lively called The Shallows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's actually pretty good.
It's actually a pretty good movie, but they show a lot of the shark.
correct.
Now,
Exactly.
And if you and it's digital, but and the way it's effective in the story plot is it's as if the shark is just picking off people around her that are trying to save her, and she's stranded in the middle of the ocean on like a rock or something, and she's got to get past the shark to get back to land, but everybody's trying to like go after the shark or try to get to her.
Right.
And it shows a lot of stuff with the shark. So it's like they're trying it, like you stated, if they try to do a Jaws type of movie and showing the shark more, it's, as you could tell, who remembers the movie, it got 4 out of 5 stars on a lot of places.
Oh, The Shallows. Yeah, that's what it's called.
So they
But a forgettable movie, like you said.
exactly.
Right.
It's like Deep Blue Sea. Everybody liked
shark
it.
movie.
Just another shark movie.
Yeah.
And in comparison to this one, which is synonymous with all shark movies, it's like the king, the alpha that you go to.
Yeah.
And because of its what it got screwed up during filming, all the baggage of how they had to deal with all the stuff not working and the workaround to make it work just became part of its legacy.
Absolutely.
Everybody, and there's nobody that really could compare it. You can't really compare it to any of them.
Oh, no.
This one will be like I said, this is the benchmark for any filmmaker that's going to go out there for a blockbuster film, or even to do a workaround for their film, because if something is not right within their budget and they're not able to get something, how do you fix it to make this work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're
They're gonna
absolutely
say,
right.
they're going to be like Spielberg this.
Yeah.
They'll use it as that term or something.
I mean, I think a
and
perfect
also-
example too is what Hollywood do. Like, hey, let's make the shark bigger, and then you have the Meg.
Right.
That's what they do. They always want to go bigger and grander, so everything becomes big. So instead of it being a small boat, let's have an underground water base station. Instead of having a great white, let's have this prehistoric shark on steroids. And again, it's fun. But it's you only remember it for when you went to go see it, and then after that, you kind of just fall back, and then yeah. But this is the true testament where it's not one thing that makes a movie, and I think that's the problem with a lot of these newer films that they think like, oh, let's just put one good actor, then everyone will come out to see it. It's like, nope.
Yeah.
You need the actors, you need the story, you need the editing, you need the wardrobe, you need the locations, you need a good script, you
It's
need
everything.
it's everything. And if something is lacking, double down on something else to help make up for it, and then it'll even out. But yeah, it's just crazy how the movie still stands till today. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're like four people who watch, us four all watch movies all the time, and we cannot come up with another movie that's better than Jaws in the same category, which is crazy. In 50 years,
Right, and
we
I
can't
don't
think
think
of one.
there isn't one because,
Mhm.
like I said, it's everything in that movie. Everything in that movie, it's like one of the most perfect movies out there. Even though everything went wrong on it, it's still one of the most perfect movies out there because, again, you take something that all of a sudden is not working. You're like, I'm going to make it work another way, and it did. I think in today's world, of course, you'll have studios that will get in the way of that, of course. So what I would call studio interference and franchise planning too. Like today's studio might demand universe building.
Right.
Yes.
Like the Amity extended universe or something like that. Or
Well, they kind of did that with Stephen King stuff too, with this, like the TV
Yeah.
series that they put out.
yeah, but Stephen King did that already in his books.
Books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, he did.
So it's not like all of a sudden the studio came up with it and stuff like that.
Or the MonsterVerse,
Yeah,
or
that's what I'm saying. They would
or
have.
the dark universe that they were going to do with the Universal
Yeah,
monsters.
they would have come up with some crap on like, let's have a Jaws origin story or something, or post credit scenes or whatever it is. Kind of a less creative risk, more of the formula that's out there. That kind of stuff. And then, of course, you will see marketing, for marketing and spoiler in today's world, everything from like trailer leaks, behind the scene reveals might get,
Funko Pops, Legos.
so like could a modern Jaws recreate the surprise and cultural shockwave without social media ruining the mystique? Hell no. It would have to be so damn top secret that no one would know. Like people would have to be flown out to like an island to make this movie, and then have like, I don't know, like almost the military surround the island where no one could come near it in order for it to be a surprise.
That is true.
I just think that it couldn't happen. And then would Brody, Hooper, and Quint be reimagined with modern backstories or more diverse casting? And I thought about that because I was like, okay, these are three white men, right? But in today's
Martha's
world,
Vineyard.
yeah, well, yeah, but in today's world, you have, I bet you that Hooper would have been probably a woman. I bet you
Sure.
Brody would have probably been a black, sheriff. Right? Quint, I don't know.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
He's in everything.
Yeah. No, Pedro Pascal's a shark.
And he would have made a great shark, man. And but there also would have been the commentary, like the social commentary stuff, like on climate change, ocean pollution, even media panic and stuff like that. But then the biggest thing would be, well, would it be in theaters or would it be streamed? Would Jaws premiere in a theater or get swallowed up by the streaming algorithms? That kind of stuff. And that's something that I thought about, and I was like, there are probably studios out there that wouldn't take a chance to put it in the theaters, and Netflix would just gobble it up and go, sure, we'll do that.
No, look, man, Tom Cruise would have jumped onto that project. He would have insisted that it only goes in the theaters. He'd have gone ahead and he'd have been like, yo, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be the sheriff. I'm also going to be the shark hunter. You know, forget the cage.
I'm going to be the
I don't
boat.
need it. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in.
Yeah, no. If it was with Tom Cruise would have made it about himself, and he would have still done the same formula, which is you don't show the shark that much, but you're going to show a lot of Tom Cruise.
A lot of Tom
Yeah,
Cruise
and then there would
swimming
be a
instead of
volleyball
running.
scene for no
Swimming,
reason.
he'll be running on the water. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? At least that's what I think. And then, and honestly, in a day and age of like, we have such a short attention span. Would the audience tolerate such a slow buildup nowadays? I don't know.
I think
they
it would. Yeah, I think they would. I
You
think
think so?
Yeah, I think if they get creative on how each person gets killed and just like, again, keep it practical, find maybe slightly more new creative ways that why they're in the water. I think it would still work because all generations go to the beach, so it's still something that like is relatable today. I think they made like what was that movie? They did like Piranhas, and that had a pretty good run. It had a couple of good, sequels and threequels or whatever it was. But I think it would hold the attention with the right cast, stick to as close to the same formula as the original, but just like like you said, Rob, like update it to make it more modern. And I would still hold off on showing the shark as much as possible.
That's the problem. Producers would probably want to show that shark a lot.
Well,
earlier.
I think a good example, and it's a different type of movie, but I think a good example right now, recently, is Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
Alien Romulus takes a long time before you see any aliens in it, but the build up to it, it's competently written, it's competently acted. You have things to keep your attention while you're waiting, because we all know what we're there for, right? We're all there to see the alien. But in the build up to it, you get into the whole backstory of the characters, the acting of it, the actual world building that they do, and how these people are basically slaves to this company, and all the things that they have to go through, and the reasoning why it makes sense for them to take a chance on going to this station. But then the second half of the movie is like, hey, alien, what you really
right,
came
but
for.
You know what? Just like the original Alien, this did not have a cultural impact. This did not have. People say, okay, it's a good movie. It's a really, really good movie.
Exactly.
But it's forgettable movie. It's not like the original Alien where you didn't see the alien that much.
Yeah,
and when
that
you
too.
finally saw it, you saw something you have never seen before. It scared the crap out of you. And it took a miracle like James Cameron to now do a second movie with a whole bunch of aliens and make it an action film. And then it stopped there, because then after that, all movies sucked until that one, until Romulus. But it's still a forgettable movie. Like no one, like when you say Alien, no one's gonna go, oh yeah, Alien Romulus. No, they're gonna say the first Alien or Aliens. And it was because it was such a surprise on something you never expected.
But I was going to say to Frank's point, Alien Romulus is proof that you can take an original idea and update it. And yeah, I agree, Robert. It doesn't have as same of an impact, but it's very successful. It really didn't get any bad reviews, like critics or anything like that, and it's probably going to spawn more. Like,
right, but
this generation's
you're talking about having a movie to be successful monetarily. But
well, like even me, like as like a filmmaker, like when I watch it, I really like that movie. Like it was written well, it was shot well, the music was great, the VFX was good. Like to me, that's a proper way to try to remake it. Because it's not a remake. It is and it isn't a remake. I mean, they all follow the same formula, all the Alien movies. So I think if they were to do that with the Jaws movie, I still don't think it would be better than the original, but it'll still be better than anything that probably came before it. Like in the last like 50 years.
Maybe not. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that for don't get me wrong. I think some remakes are great, like The Thing.
Hmm.
The Thing actually, people forget that this was made from a old movie that
I
called
think we
The
forget
Thing.
that the thing was a flop when it came out in the theaters.
That is very true. That is very true. But when you watch it nowadays, it still holds up.
Right.
Right. So it's become part of the. I think it's become part of what I say movie history, and people say it's a classic and it's fantastic.
Right.
Did it become part of our culture? Did it become a thing that took over our lives? Like, there's very few movies that do that. Jaws, Star Wars. I mean, when Star Wars came out, and I always bring up Star Wars, but when Star Wars came out, dude, there were Star Wars pants, cars, toys.
Yeah.
I don't know, Star Wars appliances, underwear. It was like no matter
I
where
still
you
have the
went,
underwear. I'm just joking.
no matter where you went, you're like, holy crap, there is a thing, disco Star Wars. It came out in Donny Osmond and Donnie Marie show, which if nobody knows
Holiday
what that,
special.
holiday special, which George Lucas always says, he never wanted to do that. There's just so many things out there. Until this day, Star Wars is a thing that, that is still part of the culture. But Aliens or any remake after that, I mean, and it's not really a remake, it's more of a continuation of the story. Yes, it's good, but not as good as the original. And it's not like it took over. Like, I think this is a movie that took over. This is a movie that said, holy crap, nothing's ever been done like this. And I guess, would Jaws not, like, let's say in today's world, would Jaws be better or worse if it were made today? And would the magic be lost in the age of algorithm, CGI, and constant content? And I don't think it would. I think it would. I think a movie like that in today's world would just get lost.
Yeah, for sure.
It would just be another movie came out. It was good. It made some good money, but it wouldn't be a cultural phenomenon. Shit, the last cultural phenomenon we had, and even that wasn't what I would call a marketing gold mine, was like Barbenheimer. When all of a sudden you had Oppenheimer and Barbie come out at the same time, and it became such a big deal that it was being broadcast in the news. And that's because these two movies were coming out at the same time. If they came out at different times, they would have both been even more forgettable. So it's very hard, I think, in today's world to try to bring something so original. It is rare to bring something so original that you're like, holy crap, this thing will just be out for the next 20 years and it'll be great.
And they try to recreate that Barbenheimer thing with Gladiator and something else. Like it was like, yeah, well, you could tell it was being forced. It was like they were trying to come up with a new word. I forgot what it was again because I can't remember. It wasn't that memorable,
right?
But I think that's. I mean, listen, that just goes to show you that like you can't create a viral moment. It's organic. It's something that has to create itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's. I don't know. I think if it's tough because like if you didn't have Jaws, I don't think all these other shark movies would have came out the way they did. They used Jaws as their blueprint and try to do something different. But I think the simplicity of Jaws is probably what makes it like enjoyable to watch.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's tough because it's a slow burn, for the most part. I think if it was modernized a little bit, I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I mean, listen, they did a Jaws 2 and a Jaws 3 and a 3D and all the other ones, and obviously none of those had the same impact. And that was part of the same franchise.
Right.
Even had some of the same actors. So. Yeah. Even within its own universe, those still don't hold up a candle to the original.
Well, I have always said, and I always told this to Mark, there's certain franchises that I think they topped out at the first one. So, perfect example of that, I think, well, Alien and Aliens are like that's kind of like the exception. It's just you had Alien, which of course was what I would call a horror, a sci-fi horror. Aliens was a sci-fi action movie. And then everything else after that never lived up to like we'll say those two films. And it's the same thing with like
Terminator, and Terminator 2.
Yeah, Predator.
Yeah.
It was the first Predator was just a fun movie.
Yes.
But once you saw the Alien, that was it. You're like, oh,
It
okay.
lost its charm.
It lost what it had because again, I think that's almost like Jaws in itself, but that was done on purpose where you didn't see the alien at all into the very, very, very end.
Yep.
And that's when you're like, holy crap. I mean, I can't believe that's a cool design and all this stuff. And then Aliens 2 comes out, which is ridiculous. And then not Aliens, Predator 2 comes out. And
Predator
then
2.
every Predator after that until Prey, the movie Prey that came out
that
on
was
Hulu. That was the only time that you say, okay, you know what? Yes, I know it's the same Predator, but this is a good story. This is actually done very well. And there's just very few movies out there that have what I would call a franchise where one beats the other. What I would say, John Wick. I would say John Wick is one of those that actually made itself better and better and better with each movie, and even bigger, and people accepted it. And John Wick is now a part of the the whole pop cultural thing out there where it's a thing, it's a phenomenon, and now other movies are trying to be like John Wick and they failed miserably.
It was almost like it was before they started doing the later sequels of Indiana Jones. It was Raiders, Temple of Doom, and the third movie, when they ended it there, it was put as
Last
a benchmark
Crusade.
of those. Yeah, as a benchmark for these trilogy movies,
Right.
or to be heralded upon. Star Wars was that way until the prequels at one point.
Star Wars is one of those things where that's kind of different, I think, because the first movie became, of course, people lost their fucking minds on that.
Yeah.
And then when the second movie was such a big anticipation that people were upset the way it left off, and of course the way it was, and then the reveal of that they showed there, but then Return of the Jedi comes around, and people lost their mind there too.
Yeah.
And then there were just a trilogy where it's just stood there, and it's like, well, this is all the Star Wars we're ever going to get, right? And then all of a sudden now there's the sequels, and people lost their mind on the sequels. But then later on they went, oh no, those movies are not that great.
They changed their mind.
I would say with the exception of what is it, Revenge of the Sith or whatever. And then for a very long time we didn't get Star Wars, and then all of a sudden now we have the sequel trilogies, which they're the worst. They still made money, but somehow people still want to go back to this movie and go, God damn, we just want to see a good Star Wars movie, right? It's interesting how that's one of the few franchises that I say it goes up and down. Even Harry Potter, I don't know. I find like Harry Potter to be like the first Harry Potter to me has the most charm, and it really gives you the essence of I think what Harry Potter is. Every movie after that, it was just a cash grab, at least for me.
No,
but that was
I
that was
disagree.
a cultural phenomenon, and it still is. Like you have people who were even born when the first one came out, and they're dressing up like wizards and witches, and they're going to the theme parks, and so that.
Well, if
I think Harry Potter is kind of like, and not as much as Star Wars, but it's pretty close as far as like a commercial.
You couldn't do the first Harry Potter and not do the books that came after that, especially if you read the books. The whole point is that those were successful books way before the movies got made. And if you're going to make the first book, you have to make every book after that. So the biggest things about those sequels are the things that they left out, because there's a lot of the books that are in there that are not in the movies. And everybody is like, shit, they really should have included those things.
Oh, I mean that could be said with any I think any book that gets made into a movie, right? So, but yeah, so I mean, in closing, I think we'd beat this enough. But in closing, I mean, this is, I mean, for me, and you guys could then reflect on it. For me, this is a movie that I still go back to, and it's a lot of fun. I am not a nostalgic person at all, but it does bring a sense of, oh, I remember where I was when I saw this. And there's a lot of movies out there that I have said the same thing, and I go, "Oh my god, I can't believe I liked that when it first came out." And I look at it now, and it's like, "Oh dear God, why? What the hell was I thinking?" And I know you guys have heard me say that a lot, but in this case, I would say this is one of those few movies that I will always go back to, always watch. And in 50 years, I have to say that it has stood the test of time. It's a fun movie. It looks beautiful. It sounds great, and it's a comfort to go back to something that is so iconic and see how this changed so many things in Hollywood and how we as people consume movies and how we even think about it, how it actually shaped us who are people who love movies and like to, review and discuss these movies. It is a testament to that. But I will say that this is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, and I think it will continue to be that for a very long time. And I don't think nothing like this will ever be made ever again. In especially the way it came together. So, but that's my personal thought. What are you guys?
Who wants to go first?
Jump in.
All right. So again, I agree with you. This is in my top 10. Like I said, for me, it's a desert island movie. I feel like if Tom Hanks had a VCR and Jaws, he'd still be on the island, and him and Wilson would still be together.
I don't know about that, but okay, go ahead.
So it'll never be done again. I don't think there'll be a movie that'll be quite like this. Even just getting people to go out to the theaters. I mean, there's very few movies that can get you to do that nowadays. A lot of times we'll just sit there and be like, you know what, streaming. So yeah,
I'll wait for it to stream, right?
yeah.
Adam?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's hard to see on my wall, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 9 movie posters on my wall, and Jaws is one of them. It's like I don't know. It's the true definition of a classic in all like the good ways, and having kind of like what I said before, having seen it like through all the anniversary re-releases and everything, it always hits the same. It's especially now knowing like everything that it took to make the movie, it makes me appreciate it like even more. And yeah, and then look, like you said, Rob, this is what kickstarted Steven Spielberg to his stardom, and it's for good reason, and the fact that we're still talking about it 50 years later, it's no wonder why it's considered like, a lot of people's like top 10 movies, which it is in my top 10 as well. I think, I think from a filmmaker's perspective, it should be something that anyone who's looking to do movies should study and watch and learn from. I think for any generation can watch this movie. There's nothing, I mean, obviously there's things about it that's dated, but not in the sense of what's going on in the movie. And then again, no movie has really come close to it, like within that same genre. So it's it's a true classic.
Yeah, my view is, this movie was lightning in a bottle, and it came out at a time where there was no such thing as a blockbuster, and it created such a legacy. It's something that I look at it, and the reason why I do this, and I do this every year, during Shark Week or month, like it should really be a month, July for like Shark instead of Shark Week. But it's my go-to like a holiday where you always watch or listen to this particular song or watch this particular show. Well, I watch Jaws at least once a year, and it would be within that time. And it's like kind of like my holiday special movie, and that's what it would be. So I kind of have that tradition where I have to watch it that one time a year, and it's my go-to. It's definitely in my top 10 of favorite movies of all time, and it's something that I would always reference too. Like, or if you make a joke in casual conversation, you can bring up like, everybody uses, we're gonna need a bigger boat, or we're gonna need a bigger something. So it's always it's connective within any community or reference. So I like it for that reason alone. I highly recommend it to anybody who has never seen it, but usually, how often do you meet somebody who has not seen Jaws?
Oh, it's rare. Yeah.
It's very, very rare.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just so you guys, everybody out there knows, so in the American Film Institute, AFI, out of the top 100 movies of all time, it ranked in 1988. It ranked at number 48, and then in the 2007 anniversary update, it ranked 56. Now, I know that doesn't seem like it's high, but when you consider that there are millions of movies out there, the fact that it's still 58 and it's still within the top 100 is a testament to the movie. When it comes to the top 100 thrills in films, it ranks as number 2, just right behind Psycho. And then when it comes to heroes and villains, the shark, who's the villain, ranks number 18. I think number 1 is still Darth Vader. And Roy Schneider's iconic line of "You're going to need a bigger boat" landed as 35 in movie quotes. And then, of course, John Williams' score places number 6. So it doesn't seem like, nothing is ranked number 1. But, when you consider all the movies that are out there, and when you consider the fact that this movie technically was supposed to be a flop, it was supposed to be a disaster. Yeah, no, it's like all of you said, it's just if it affected our lives, it affected the way we see things, and I will continue to hope that maybe one day we will see something else like this. In the meantime, I just keep watching this.
There you go.
And if anybody out there has any thoughts on this movie and anything on how it affected you, what you think of it, drop us a line and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and for you guys to do that would be done through feedback. So all you have to do is go to our Facebook group, facebook.com, Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, and then leave them in the comments below. Usually there's an image of whatever we're going to be covering, or just leave them below that. We'll get back to it. Or if you feel the need, you could email us at AdrenalineCinemaPodcast@gmail.com. And then obviously, we could be found on Instagram, because what's on Facebook is on Instagram because it's all meta. We can be found on YouTube as well. We get those messages just the same. Sometimes even if you put it on and you listen through Spotify, I'll get those comments. So let us know your thoughts and do that as well. The one thing before we leave, I just want to let everybody know, please support the other podcast on the Pyrocore Entertainment Network. Literally just go to Pyrocore Entertainment. Well, the website is still mixed, but we mention it, and I'm going to mention all the others. So we have the Pyrocore Entertainment Podcast that can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. What's on Tonight, they have their own, but it's also found on the Pyrocore Entertainment Podcast. And you have Panels to Pixels Podcast as well. Check out Dinner with Her. And we look forward to all the other projects we're doing with the other podcasts. So you could definitely hear Mandy and Becky with their coverage of what's going on with the Better Sister. I think they're just wrapping that one up. So, or you could check out the previous stuff of their coverage on The Pit. We're looking forward to building up. Steve and I will be covering Ironheart that just came out on Disney Plus. So we're gonna start doing that.
Oh boy.
Jamie and I are wrapping up Invincible season 3. It took us a long time to get back to it, and then we'll be back with the Fantastic Four review when that comes out.
Nice.
So check that out, and then with Adrenaline Cinema, well, we'll let you guys know. Just follow the Facebook group, and you'll be good. So that's pretty much our show, and I just want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
I'm Robert.
I'm Frank.
I'm Adam.
And this was Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you the next time when we change the reel. Bye-bye.
Bye.